Hey everybody, Keegan here, and today we're going to be talking about the comments and threads in the Clone Keegan. Hey everybody, so I actually just want to take some time today to talk to you guys and express my appreciation and love for you guys. The Clone Keegan page really gets me going. If you're new to this page or group out there and want to know how you can find us, we have a YouTube channel, we have a website, we have two different pages on the Clone Keegan. We're just getting one off the ground here, and today I just wanted to kind of show you what we're all about. Our only rule at the Clone Keegan is no trolls. So we have people from all kinds of different backgrounds. We have atheists and Christians and Muslims. We have Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, independents, libertarians. So I had asked some people in the Clone Keegan, like what I should be covering today and stuff. So I just wanted to go through some of the comments and just kind of guide you guys through the normal thread that you would see on a day-to-day basis in the Clone Keegan here. So if we get started, I had said, what topic should I cover tonight? I'm filming soon. So Zach Leo Cardison said, media intentional polarization, divide and conquer tactics, bias coverage, and outright lies. So I think one of the things he might be getting at is people with a lot of money. Let's say on the Republican side, you would have the Koch brothers. And on the Democrat side, you would have people like George Soros. So one of the reasons why George Soros is constantly being talked about by conspiracy theorists is George Soros has admitted that in the past, uh, him and his family actually helped the Nazis round up rich Jews during the Holocaust. And him being Jewish himself, a lot of people have pointed that out. Like, is he really Jewish? Is he really with the Nazis? And he had said before what he did, he does without regret. He had to do what he had to do to stay alive. If you look into groups like the Tea Party movement or Occupy or Black Lives Matter or Antifa, you can almost always trace George Soros money to these groups in one way or another. So George Soros actually funds money into two different groups that would normally be fighting one another. And he, uses his pull with the media to help steer the narrative of these two different groups. So the media totally does divide and conquer tactics, and that's totally that's a great point. For instance, if you were like a bartender or something, right, and you had 100 people in the room, and you were trying to control everybody to make them think a certain way, right? Besides like trying to give out alcohol or something. If you're trying to make them all do what you wanted, instead of standing up on a table and say, "Hey, everybody, I need you to do what I say," you could be manipulative and you could go over to the jukebox and talk to the people over there and say, "Hey, the guys at the pool table are talking crap." You could go over to the bar and be like, "Hey, the people over there by the pool table are talking crap." And before you know it, you can start getting the room to fight one another, right? You can start manipulating the crowd. And that's what the media does, and that's what super rich groups and people in the United States, all over the world, that's what they do, is they use their money to divide and conquer everyone. And the thing is, if the smaller groups of people are fighting one another, they're not uniting together to fight the big dog, right? And that's what divide and conquer is all about, especially in today's climate. So what else? Soft populists plus militarized police. So I think by soft populace he means soft kill, which would be like uh, in time, the elites basically want to get rid of 80% of the population. So you can't just like round people up and put them into camps anymore, even though there's possibly FEMA camps out there and that's what their intention is. So soft kill would be slowly killing the population, and they do that by like things that are hidden in our food, things that are hidden in our crops. They do it with the chemtrails and the cell phone towers and stuff. This is a constant bombardment. Some people would say vaccines, some people wouldn't, but this is what the conspiracy theorists get at. The fluoride in the water and all these things are constantly, slowly, they think, killing the population. And I mean, with fluoride, we know that something's going on because there's Harvard studies that say that fluoride lowers IQ in children under the age of 3 and stuff. And the militarized police, a lot of the military weapons and goods that the military uses that they get in surplus or they get like an excess amount of. A lot of that stuff ends up going into police departments that don't really need it. Like I live in a small town out here in Washington, and we have a giant armored like tank truck thing, and I can't possibly think what they would need it for. Do they know something I don't, or are they just overly funded, or is the military just overly funded, and that leaks into the local police departments and stuff? Probably all the above. Christopher Hart says CERN. So CERN, for those of you that don't know, and I've talked about this several times, CERN is a particle accelerator located in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's so big that part of it actually goes in France. It's 17 miles. It's a giant like tube, and what they do is they actually shoot atoms at each other super fast, and they crash them into each other, and they observe what happens. And their goal is to replicate the Big Bang, but on a really small level, so they can actually see what happened, see how the universe was formed, and hopefully information we learn from that would better science. But what's weird about CERN is CERN, the scientists there have a really sick sense of humor, and they actually put out weird, like occult like videos that act like they're trying to summon demons. There's footage of a mock human sacrifice, hopefully mock human sacrifice, being done in front of a statue of CERN of Shiva, I believe. And yeah, so CERN's definitely weird, and people think that CERN, by smashing these particles into each other, they're actually messing with our current dimension, and they're messing with timelines, and it's causing like song lyrics to change and movie titles to change, and certain actors are alive that people thought were dead, and this is where the whole fake celebrity death hoax is coming from, and that whole thing's called the Mandela effect, and people think that CERN is definitely behind the Mandela effect. Other people think that UFOs that the government has actually made here on Earth, the government has created spacecraft that actually use particle accelerators as like the engine, right? And as UFOs are flying in and out of like space time, or like, you always hear about UFOs appearing and disappearing. Some people think that the particle accelerator on board of the UFOs that were made by the government are actually causing these time disruptions and stuff. It's crazy if you really look into it. I don't know enough about it to be like an expert or anything. I just read a lot about that kind of stuff and find it interesting. So, Allie, so this is one of my favorite bros, dude. So Allie says I should be talking about cute puppies and kitties and how they're so damn cute and how they can be used against us. And no, it's funny. It's funny you actually mentioned that because, like the website Reddit is known for being like filled with kittens and atheists. People think that kittens are super cute. Pictures of kittens go viral. You post a cute picture or video of a kitten, and just all over the internet all at once. So what if the State Department or DARPA or whatever could actually use how things go viral to help spread propaganda? So recently there was actually what was known as the moth memes, and people all over the place were posting memes and pictures of moths, and it's actually really weird. But I found an article that was basically saying that that was basically a test to see if DARPA, Google, and the CIA could basically make something a trend and make something go viral. So if they can do that with moth memes, imagine if they could do it with propaganda. All of a sudden, everybody's just like, I gotta get my freaking flu shot, dog. What? Everybody just, millions of people right now, we can get me a flu shot. Well, why is it so trendy to get a flu shot? Oh, I'm gonna get my flu shot right now. So I'm just saying, if it's starting with moth memes and it's the government that's behind it, that's scary, because you don't want the powers that be to be behind what's trendy, because that's bad news. You want the people to be behind the trends. Kyle Larson says, what we don't hear about the ocean. We know more about outer space than we know about the ocean, and we constantly dump our pollution into the ocean. Dead fish are constantly washing up on shore. We have the Juan de Fuca fault line that I live near is supposedly about to fall like deep into the ocean and cause a huge tidal wave that's going to spread across the United States. We constantly hear rumbling. I know somebody later on here brings up the rumbling, but we constantly hear rumbling coming from either the ocean or up in the air in this area. I live on the Strait of Juan de Fuca. But anyhow, yeah. So the ocean is definitely an awesome and mysterious topic. I agree. Uh, let me see here. Daniel Jason Dockery says the QAnon phenomenon, thousands of sealed indictments. Okay, so one of the things he's talking about is there's this guy named Q, and he's supposedly a whistleblower that works for uh, Trump or the deep state. Through various posts in the past, he's been able to predict things that ended up happening. And so some people would be like what? Well, for instance, there was this QAnon post that basically made it seem as if a stadium was about to collapse. He said something like, "Be on the lookout in the news for a stadium collapsing." And I was so into the Q stuff, I actually told people at my work this weekend, look out for a stadium collapsing. The next day, a bridge collapsed in Miami. And the thing was, he made it seem like in the news you're going to hear the words like collapse. And I mean, just right on cue. Right on cue, a bridge collapsed. Now, the bridge collapsed in Miami. He said a stadium was going to collapse in Texas. So some people go, dude, that doesn't prove anything. Well, what if the elite already had this plan in motion and Q tipped everybody off, so they had to kind of change it? So I've talked in other videos about how the elite talk to each other through the mainstream media through symbols. So, if you're trying to recruit some new rich young kid into the Illuminati and you're like, hey man, just check this out. We run stuff. Be on the lookout in the news for a stadium collapsing in Texas. And then it happens. The new recruit's like, whoa, you guys are powerful, right? So Q takes that information and he tells online boards. He tells Reddit, Vote, 4chan, or whatever. And everybody's like, oh crap, there's going to be the stadium collapse in Texas. And instead, there's a bridge collapse in Miami or Orlando or wherever it was. But so does he have inside information, and did they have to kind of change their little Cobra Commander plan? Who knows? But so when he's talking about the sealed indictments, there was this big thing with the Supreme Court nominee Kavanaugh. And what people like CIA analyst Robert David Steele have said is that Kavanaugh is going to help with these sealed indictments. Apparently for the last year, there's been 1,100 sealed indictments. There's going to be naval and war tribunals for people that helped rig the election in 2016 and all this stuff. But we'll see. But that's what Daniel's talking about right here. Jenny Clark says, holographic celebrities. There was Tupac at Coachella in 2012. Now Amy Winehouse is going on tour next year. Are they getting us ready for clones? The company base that makes these and produces them seems shady too. So, yeah, so the military industrial complex is 40 to 70 years more advanced than we could ever realize. One of the things that helps the military industrial complex's agenda is everybody being on board with the agenda. Being on board with the military. One of the ways they do that is celebrity endorsement, right? So the military has always tried to appeal with their technology and the jets, whether it's the jets flying overhead at the Super Bowl or like DARPA using their hologram to make Tupac rap again and come to life. They want people and celebrities to think that technology is super sexy and cool, so they'll be on board with it when they start using that technology for weapons. And so some people might be like, how could holograms be handy in warfare? Well, you can make it appear as if a dozen people are running up on you. You could make it appear as if a UFO is appearing in the sky. You can make it appear as if Jesus is showing up in the atmosphere. And people would lay down their weapons because they think they would be having some sort of religious experience. I've talked about this kind of stuff before. So holographic technology is definitely scary if it's used in bad applications. So what they're doing right now is they're doing the holographic celebrity stuff because they're trying to get the public acclimated to it. They want us to think that it's super cool. So when they start using it for nefarious reasons, we're already like, we've known about celebrities for a while. Didn't you see the Michael Jackson hologram? But yeah, and I could get into the clone stuff. I'll save that for another time because the clone subject is one of my favorite subjects, and I know we only got a few minutes left here. So let me see. Man finds evidence of supermassive tree with leaves longer than the Empire State Building. So, when you look into the flat Earth stuff, you also come across this whole giant tree and that mountains are actually ancient trees and stuff. And one of the things I've always thought was interesting is here's a picture. Is this Monument Valley? It's either Monument Valley or the Devil's Tower. But people think that this is an ancient tree trunk. They think that this, when you do take samples of this stuff, That's not rock. It's actually petrified wood. They think that is an ancient tree and that's how big trees used to be, and that the trees that we have are actually just shrubs compared to what they used to be. And they think the oxygen content was like way greater back in the day, so that made plants and stuff bigger. Of course, we had big dinosaurs and stuff. I think that stuff's interesting. Again, I'm not smart enough to know more about that stuff, but I do find it super interesting. It's just not really one of the rabbit holes that I normally go down, because it's hard enough to get people to look into like the Patriot Act or the NDAA Act. That it's I can't get people to start looking into giant leaves if they won't even look at stuff that I can actually prove. You know what I'm saying? I just posted some stuff about Bruce Lee. I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. A lot of people don't know that Bruce Lee actually taught philosophy at UW here in Seattle. Just a heads up. He's also buried in Seattle with his son. You can go there and visit his grave and stuff. But real quick, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon star Chow Yun-fat plans to give his entire $714 million fortune to charity. Kudos to that guy. I ain't got no beef with that dude yet. My buddy Craig Froz, Squim rumbles twice just now at 11:40. I'm out at Dungeness, shook my windows, freaked my 4-year-old out. Again, the ocean out here every once in a while freaking rumbles, and so it's creeping a lot of us out. Is it the Earth's magnetic pole flip-flopping? Is it the government building underground military bases? Are they connecting like Seattle across the Puget Sound to Protection Island, and then connecting Protection Island up into the military base they got up here in Carlsberg? I know they got an underground base up there. I know that part of the mountain opens up and helicopters fly in and out. I've heard everybody in town talks about it. I've heard it from several different people that have seen it, heard about it. There's some weird stuff going on. Bill Gates owns property up there. This guy, Jonathan Zilstra, rants, Jay Inslee ranked as the absolute worst governor on taxing and spending. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't know much about that. Jeff Mortensen, he's always posting good music for us to listen to while we're fighting the New World Order here, which is good. What is this? Do you ever wonder if we were given steroids in boot camp to stop our periods? Hey-oh! Oh, most 00 to 2015 female veterans are suffering from PCOS and endometriosis. I wonder what were in those shots. Most female Marines pregnant at the time I was in suffered miscarriages and birth defects. So this is news to me. This is something I'm going to have to look into. Yeah, but I'll have to check that out. I have not heard of that before. So give me just a moment. I hope parallel universe me is doing okay right now. Ain't that the truth? Henry Kissinger, the man behind eugenics and depopulation. A lot of them are totally thinking that we're useless eaters and bottom feeders. The Q review. The war has begun. Okay, so this is from the New York Post. Where's the outrage over Hillary's call for a civil war? 2 events from the last 2 days stand out. The first came Monday as Hillary declared a call for civil war against Trump supporters. Something like that. Urgent. Hurricane Michael was a targeted strike. Yes, so basically, if you spray enough chemtrails in the air, if you use HARP, chemtrails are made up of little tiny pieces of metal and stuff. With HARP, you can basically control the Earth's magnetism. So you can actually steer storm fronts and weather systems into one another, create storms, and actually steer the storm and target it. So there's actually been UN laws since the 1970s that it's illegal for countries to modify the weather to attack one another. Iran has accused Israel of giving them a drought and actually using chemtrails and stuff to actually push their rain clouds away so their crops aren't getting rain and stuff. So definitely interesting, but yeah, I just want to say I love this group. I love everybody in it. I think everybody's great. The moon landing was a hoax, changed my mind. Arthur Smith, we'll get into that kind of stuff later. I love you guys. And in the meantime, don't roll your eyes at me.